Good morning out there. Right, so I just thought I'd pull up the chart of today, which is the 11th of April and 2020. And it's now 11 a.m. in London. I'm in London. And I was just thinking about what's going on out there. And I'm just going to have a little look or show you that Mercury has just moved into Aries here. So Mercury has moved into Aries, and what I have, which I suggest you get if you're into astrology, and I'll put the link below, it's a book called Planets in Transit by Robert Hand. So if we look at Mercury, I can read a little bit of the definition. What we've got to realize is that we had Mercury for a very long extended period in Pisces, in water. And when it went retrograde, it was very tricky for all of us, the communication that was going on. So I'm going to read a little bit so you understand Mercury basically. And Mercury takes 88 days to move around a chart, to move right 360 degrees. And then we have our retrogrades, which are a few times a year, which I'm sure you know if you're into astrology. Most people know Mercury retrograde. Everybody gets scared, but there's never any need to, because it's just a time to withdraw, relax, go inward and rewind and review. That's what a retrograde basically means. And then it will depend on the house it's in for you when that takes place. So for me, that retrograde was in my third house of communications. And the third house is also the ruler of Gemini also. So we take many other things into consideration when we are looking at our own chart, when we take the transits that are currently going on, and then we transpose or, look at our own chart in alignment with that. So this might be just a bit of fun to read. So it may not be as fluent in the sense that I'm reading rather than just, talking to you. I'm just going to read for you the significance of transiting Mercury. So the transiting Mercury is not one of the most powerful indicators in the horoscope, but it does indicate shifts of mental focus and attention as it transits the houses and planets. Also, it indicates the kinds of communications you have with other people throughout the year. Sometimes it is an indicator of travel, usually short trips that do not seriously alter your everyday routine. On another level, Mercury is the everyday routine. It signifies the nature of your casual interchange with the world around you. But casual does not mean unimportant. It means simply something we are so used to that we do not see its effects. Nevertheless, being conscious of the Mercury function in your life can be enormously valuable. Most of us go through our lives without ever really being conscious of how our words affect other people. Instead, we are too caught up in the reacting to their words. So what's interesting, we can look at that going on at this point in time with all of the conspiracy theories, and people, have got their own ideas of what the virus is, or it doesn't exist, or it does exist, and people have got it, and some people haven't got it. So then we're using words, and our words affect other people, We continue in reading. We are reacting to them, reacting to us, reacting to them, and so on. Obviously, if you can become conscious of this process, you can learn to control it and thereby control many situations as well. Thus, it is extremely important to study your Mercury transits and see how they operate for you, even though their effects are subtle. The knowledge that you gain from them will and can be extremely useful. On another level, Mercury relates to communications received as well as given. During a busy Mercury period, you may receive a lot of mail or many telephone calls, as well as unexpected visits. The pace of your interchange with others increases when Mercury is active in your horoscope, and it can sometimes be a very busy and exciting time. You can usually count on not being bored by Mercury, but again, it is important to note that Mercury usually intensifies the daily routines rather than disrupts it. Sometimes a Mercury transit represents a time when you should just sit and think. Mercury rules the rational mind, and in many of its transits, your mind is usually clear. So it may be a good idea to get away from it all and be alone with your thoughts, even though Mercury usually likes to be around others. So we can see it's going to be dependent on what house it's transiting for you. So for instance, my Aries, Mercury's just moved into Aries. It's at 0 degrees Aries. You can see on the chart here, we've got Mercury. It's just moved into Aries. So what we can now see is that Mercury really is taking off on the flavor of the first house. So I'm going to explain what Mercury in the first house is, which is ultimately Mercury in Aries. Now, for each of us, depending on our time of birth, our Aries is going to be in a particular house. Mine is intercepted, and it's intercepted in the 4th house, going into the 5th house. So for me, I'm going to experience Mercury in Aries in part of my 4th house, and then moving into my 5th house. So Mercury in the 1st house, I'm going to read this bit to you now. Mercury in Aries. So you can figure out how this is going to play out in your own life, depending on the house it falls in for you also. This is a good time for expressing your point of view to people. You are able to put a great deal of yourself into whatever you say, so it is somehow more authentically yourself speaking. At the same time, you have the capacity to examine yourself with somewhat greater objectivity and detachment than usual. Your mind will be more active, and it is important to keep it occupied with useful projects, because you can accomplish a great deal with your mind at this time. So we've all got a lot to think about right now. We're going to be having to rearrange our resources. It's a bit of me first attitude. You know, Aries is ruled by Mars, and Mars is about taking direct action. So we can see for many of us, we've had a lockdown, you know, social distancing, and now we're in a place where we're going to have to be like really sorting out our resources and looking at our own any health issues that we've had ourselves. Continuing reading. One effect of Mercury is that your mind and your consciousness jumps from issue to issue very rapidly, which may confuse the people around you a bit. So we can see that we're jumping from one thing to the other. We're going conspiracy theory, no conspiracy theory. This means that. We need to take this product. We need to do that. We need to, you know, there's so much going on in our minds. Also, reading, you aren't trying to be deceptive, but your mind is likely to move so fast under this influence that you seem to be constantly changing. So here we're talking about Mercury in Aries, okay? Again, it is really the focus of your attention that changes. Mercury does not settle on any one issue for very long in Aries, which is one of the greatest deficiencies of this energy, because it never really gets into an issue deeply. So we've got to try to control this tendency so that we're not wasting our energy. If Mercury transits planets that are afflicted, let me see. Okay, I think something just popped up there, but I'm just going to continue reading. If Mercury transits planets are afflicted in your natal 1st house, or if Mercury is afflicted by another transiting planet whilst it is transiting the planet in this house, you may react with nervousness or anxiety. This usually means that you are becoming too involved in some mental problem. Try to relax and get your mind away from serious subjects to something light and entertaining. So we must do this. We've got to have a bit of self-control going on at the moment with our mind. Often with this transit, you will have a strong urge to get out and travel, and clearly we can't do that, yeah? We're all in lockdown, social distancing, although not usually for long distances. And, you know, clearly we're going to be going out getting our food and stuff like that. We can't go very far at the moment. This is fine if it is convenient and you feel like doing this. You could encounter a rather profitable and interesting experience in your travels. Usually this is a good time to be involved in negotiations or contract discussions of any kind. Your mind will be quite clear if you keep it from running too quickly and if you know what you want. So we've got to know what we want, right? Sorting out our resources and food, sorting out our health issues, and, you know, watching where our mind jumps to, you know, slowing down a little bit, just watching that Mercury there. So I could go deeper into this chart, but I'm just putting out the Mercury going into Aries today, and it's going to be there, you know, for a few weeks, so we can begin to get into the meaning of what that is for us. Okay, catch you later. Thanks for watching.